more. Let's tackle the tough questions and expose the truth. The Issues on Voice of the People Television, Mondays to Fridays, 8 to 9 p.m. The Issues. Don't just react, understand.
We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at VOP TV Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Also watch us live on SLTV channel 264. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television.
VOP TV. Now, you have more than a voice.
My name is Esther. They call me the Oga Parapata of them are the general overseer of them all. Every man, every woman has got a voice where integrity is the volume. So this is Voice of the People's TV. Voice of the People's TV. So this is the people's voice. And the people's voice is the voice of God. That's the voice populi in Latin. The people's voice is the voice of God. So keep watching Voice of the People. In fact, my name is Voice of the People. Keep watching MC Ado Pikin.
Hi guys, my name is Kagan. I am Nigeria's biggest tech content creator, and I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Voice of the People TV. Keep watching.
A beautiful morning to you, and I welcome you to VOP this morning. And let's get into the program for today. But first, yesterday, a man became the new billionaire, the world's richest man, knocking off Elon Musk. I've forgotten his name now. I think Elion or something. I'll get his name before we're done with the introduction. But he became the world's richest man by making large sales in one day sales. Oh, well, congratulations to the new world's richest man. But anyway, that's the part of our conversation for this morning. Moses Humphrey, now let's get you into our very first conversation this morning. 2010, Rockefeller Foundation predicting collapse of Nigerian government by 2026. And this reignites fears amid Nepal revolution. Also, Labour Party governorship candidate Mohalu suspends campaign, accuses Governor Soludo of turning state into battlefield.
All right, good morning and thanks for joining us. I am Chukwuma Okoro. Away from those, Ezekwesili accuses Akpabio, Senate of killing democracy, demands Senator Natasha's immediate recall.
And those are the major topics of conversation today. I'm Fina Okechukwu. Also on the radio, have other interesting topics that we'll have to bring also to the table. But we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you've not done that on YouTube, we have Voice of the People TV. And on all of our social media platforms, we have VOP TV live. And talking about the world richest man.
Yes.
That's Larry Ellison.
Ellison.
Exactly.
Okay. Ellison.
Yeah.
Larry Ellison.
Exactly.
I know he sounds like Elon. Ellison.
And that shows you can just sleep and wake. You know,
No, he wasn't just sleeping.
Let me tell you what came to my mind the first time I saw that. I was like, okay, I had to go back to the good book that says God can make a poor man suddenly and instantly rich, and that happens to come from the book of Sirach. That man has been selling the products. He has been selling the products all this while. He's been a businessman. He's been a businessman, a billionaire.
He's been a businessman. But you know, Oracle, because of AI now.
One day.
Yes, Oracle has been is being sought after now. And then in just one day,
boom,
one day, massive request, massive sales, and boom, he's the world's richest man.
Exactly.
But will he stay? Will he stay there? We wait to see, because in 2024, Jeff Bezos knocked off Elon Musk.
Exactly.
But it was for a while. Elon Musk got back there because Tesla is raking in a lot of dollars for Elon Musk. But
he had demand of Oracle stock. I believe he will still be
Congratulations to Larry Ellison. You are the world's richest man. I'm the richest man in my house.
Exactly. Congratulations to you too. Nobody can ever pressurize us. People cannot pressurize us.
It doesn't mean I'm not aspiring, but for now, I'm the richest man in my house. Not in my family, just in my own house.
I love that. But let's move away from that. Exactly. Let's move on from that now to look at other trending stories. Well, we learned that the Nigerian police on Tuesday arrested Nasiru Hassan Yelwa, who happens to be a journalist and member of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, while he was covering a public Maulid procession in Abuja. VOPTV gathered that the demonstration was organized by members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, IMN, popularly called Shiites, alongside other Muslim worshippers to mark the Maulid, the birthday of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. In a similar development, Ekiti State Police Command has also summoned Fisayo Shoyombo, who happens to be the founder and editor-in-chief of the Foundation for Investigative Journalism, FIJ, for interrogation over allegation of conspiracy, criminal defamation, cyberbullying, and blackmail. FIJ disclosed that the invitation came barely an hour before the release of its senior reporter, Sodiq Atanda, who had been detained and grilled by the police for about 11 hours on Tuesday. Atanda had earlier been invited on September 1 to answer questions bordering on malicious misrepresentation and even similar allegations too. But meanwhile, away from that, still talking about, cramp down on dissent, we have also gotten another information that a journalist in Kebbi State, Hassan Miwaya Kengiwa, has also been arrested for exposing the poor conditions at Kengiwa General Hospital in a video that showed an elderly patient on a bed frame without a mattress. According to activist Dan Bello, the journalist was arrested on orders of Governor Dr. Nasiru Idris. The incident has led to public outrage on social media, with many demanding his immediate release using the hashtag Free Hassan Kengiwa Now. When I came across this topic, first thing I said to myself, okay, fine. The other day, it was DSS writing to ex-cop to say pull down or take out the tweet of an individual who happens to be in Nigeria about what he said about the president, and also they are also seeking that his account also should be deactivated. But now that we have journalists reporting what they have, we call that first-hand information, eyewitness. Is there a bed frame? Yes. Was that an elderly woman lying down on that bed frame? Yeah. And that was what this particular guy, Hassan Kengiwa, reported in a hospital. We've been talking about the fact that most of our hospitals in Nigeria are not the way it should be. Some persons will tell you that you might go in there being sick and you come back with tired sickness, not because of any other thing, but because of the poor condition of most of our medical facilities. And someone actually started to bring that out. And guess what happened? A governor in the state decided to arrest him for exposing the dilapidated nature of hospitals in the state. That actually reminds me of what is happening again in Kwara State, where the governor of the state, through a certain emir, come up to issue more like a warning to journalists to say, don't report anything again that has to do with insecurity. Is insecurity still in Nigeria? Yes. Is it still bedeviling some region? All the regions, not just some, because people are still being kidnapped, homes are being destroyed, properties are still being destroyed, and people decide to report all this. And the only thing the governor could do is cram down on them to say, don't do it again, because it is more like painting the image of the governor in bad ways. What is really happening in Nigeria as a great nation? We know we practice democracy. And when I say Nigeria is a great nation, Chukwu will say, don't say that. We are anticipating today. We are blessed. But
then we can work ourselves to greatness.
But no, the thing is, they say, I'm particular about this. I'm a media personality. I'm a journalist. And then imagine I'm walking past by a place and I see something that shouldn't be there. And I decided to do what? To bring that to the notice of the government, for them to up their game, for them to ace their game and make sure they put their acts together. And guess what will happen? Somebody will come to arrest me for bringing it out to the notice. Maybe the governor actually is not aware that this elderly woman or this elderly person sleep, on bed frames without mattresses, and this person decided to bring it to his notice the way he did, and it turned out to be a problem. Then does that mean they don't want us to help them at all? Is it that they're telling us that we know everything, we can handle it ourselves, nobody should report anything? No. We have freedom. This is why Nigeria is still being pegged at what it is. Fundamental human rights abuse. We know where we happen to be, the position we occupy on that particular, will I say, frame, or the position that we have now in the World Index. But I believe the NUJ actually should do something about this. If not Niger State closing down Badiji radio station because of the report that they made, the governor said this is more like a slap on my face. Governors, we people put you there, we vote you guys there. You should not come and take over this whole thing and make it look like you are the leaders and we are the slaves or the serfs now have to follow and worship you. I don't like such, please.
Well, it's quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate that this government is becoming, displaying a high level of unimaginable intolerance against dissenting voices, and you can count on the tip of your fingers the situation. The one in Kwara State, the one in Fisayo Shoyombo has been invited. This other man has been arrested. Journalists in Nigeria, globally, seem to have become an endangered species. Look at what went down in Gaza the other day, where about 12 journalists were slaughtered, by enemy firepower and all of that. It speaks to the fact that the freedom space is gradually fast shrinking every other day. But let's come back to Nigeria, where we are and where the problem seems to be flying in our faces, especially by this government. The other day it was DSS writing excorporation, to pull down a journalist tweet and all of that. Now, I want us to speak to what I always call a false sense of accomplishment by our leaders. A journalist gets into a hospital and he finds something that is not good, and he decides to report it. And the governor goes after him. The governor comes after him. This is not the first time. I recall that when I talk about false sense of accomplishment, I recall that during the Jonathan era, there was this report about a certain barracks that had gone dilapidated, that had gone decrepit, and it was Channels Television that did a kind of short documentary. And Jonathan and the PDP that time were like, this is the handwork of our enemies and all of that. And I was like, is it the enemies that ask you not to fix the police barracks? Now, is it the journalists that said, Governor, don't fix the hospital and all of that? It's the call of journalists, it's the call of citizens to hold leaders to account. And there is no other way you can do it except reporting. Like Fina said, they should even be grateful to this young man to have exposed it so that the Commissioner for Information can quickly run to the hospital, fix it, and say, oh, sorry, we have a listening ear, we saw this, and this is how far we have gone to fix it. No, but our government will not do that. Our government will rather try to lock you down so that you don't open, you don't open what they are doing that is not good and all of that. It doesn't speak to, I understand that democracy is under savage assault, globally. But here in Nigeria, it seems to be on the increase every other day, and particularly under the APC administration.
Yes,
let's say it as it is, particularly under the APC administration. And it's worrisome and concerning.
Yes, it is. I know a lot of, some of us would want to shy away from saying it that way, so as not to be clamped down on. But the truth is, under this administration, the APC, especially this administration, there's been, media has been targeted, dissenting voices have been targeted, and it's beginning to spread. It's we've seen the executive go after individuals. We've seen those who think they are wealthy, go after dissenting voices. The other day, it was a tomato paste company that went after a lady because she put up something that they felt was detrimental to the image of the company. The other time, it was a journalist who reported a case about an individual, and he was basically made to disappear for some time.
he was arrested and taken away, and then, it was for the outcry. Nigerians had to cry out before we saw him. So it's now governors are doing it. Individuals too will do it. Basically, trying to silence dissenting voices from every angle. It's really bad. It's terrible. And the truth of the matter is there's only so much that people can take. It won't get to, if care is not taken, if people, resolve that they don't have anyone to protect them and their rights can be trampled upon, they will take laws into their hands one day. And then it will get out of hand. In Nepal, we can see what's been happening in Nepal. Yesterday we could see politicians being airlifted with helicopters running away. The finance minister or commissioner was beaten on the streets of Nepal. I saw a woman who was said to be a politician's wife begging because her home was invaded. And why? Because the people were tired of the way politicians treated them. Corruption. People were tired. And then they decided to revolt. I think our politicians should be careful. They should be careful. There's only so much the people can take. Now, no one is calling for an uprising. But if you push the people too much, there will be a pushback. And, we will all lose at the end of the day because the country will be destroyed. Infrastructure that we've spent taxpayers' money on will be destroyed. And then we'll talk about rebuilding. And we might just go back to taking loans to rebuild. So why not just let's all do right by each other and hope that we will all move this country forward.
Anyway, let's move away from that and get into another interesting topic again. Like the President Bola Tinubu has called for a Federal Executive Council committee, to move swiftly and implement measures to further reduce food prices across the country. Wow. Well, Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Ali Yusabi Abdullahi, disclosed this on Wednesday, that's yesterday in Abuja. According to him, the directive focuses on ensuring the safe passage of farm produce across transport routes to cut logistics costs. Nigeria has faced worsening food insecurity since the removal of fuel subsidy. High transport costs and insecurity on major highways disrupted the movement of goods. Well, despite government interventions, food remains largely unaffordable for millions. The minister said the plan is tied to Tinubu's broader vision of food sovereignty beyond availability to ensure affordability, accessibility, and nutrition on a sustainable basis. It's interesting to know that the president gave this directive from faraway Europe. From faraway Europe. He was here. Probably they now told him where he traveled. They just told him that, sir, the price of food items are still on the increase and all of that. Inflation is still rising. I said, okay, during the Federal Executive Council meeting, I'm going to give this directive, bring down food prices. And I'm asking how? How do you want to bring down the prices of food items? Okay, you go to a market and say, right, a pencil of rice, a pencil of a mudu of rice that used to sell at X price, now bring it down to Y price. It doesn't happen. Do we have price control? No, we don't. Do we have marketing bots? No, we don't. So how will you go to somebody's, how will you do that? But I'm happy too that the government recognizes the fact that, look, there is rising food prices, rising in price of food items. And what is the cost? The cost is that, look, transport cost adds to the prices. That when you manage to produce in the farms, for you to bring them from the hinterland to the city centers, it's going to cost money. And why will it cost money? Because of the transport cost. The other day, we are rolling out CNG buses, but there's also an increase in the cost of CNG gas, CNG itself. So how do you put it together, all of these things? I keep telling people, I said it the other day, all the elementary economics I knew when I was in school, I've lost all of them because I don't get it. Government just sit in the comfort of their apartments and issue directives. Directives they know that it will not work. Did they give us like an implementation milestone or benchmark? How do they intend to, what track are you going to follow? Farmers are not going to farm. The ones that are going to farm are taxed. And when they are taxed, what will they do? They simply pass on the cost to the end users. Mr. President, I don't get all of this. Your economic team, they are not doing well. If you don't understand these things, please tell Nigerians, simply apologize. Because I've just been thinking since I heard this news, how are they going to bring down the price of food? Drive down inflation. Push it down. If inflation goes down, nobody will be... I mean, if I buy at 2 naira and I sell at 3 naira, another fellow that buys at 2 naira and sells at 5 naira will basically not sell if we are in the same environment. So what is all this about the economic jargon and all of that?
I'm happy you're saying if you buy at 2 naira, somebody else that were able to buy or get his own at 5 naira will sell lesser price.
No, that's not what I said. I said if I buy at 2 naira and sell at 3 naira, and you buy at 2 naira and sell at 5 naira in the same environment, in the same location, of course you won't sell.
Okay, you won't sell. But I'm happy you know that Nigeria will still import everything. Are farmers now going to farm to start?
So when you import, don't you buy
No,
from importers?
we need to start first from somewhere. Are farmers now going to farm?
That is the question. Finna, don't ask me. Ask the president.
No, maybe you have this first-hand information that I don't have, you know.
No, but I said that much.
Okay, they don't go to farm yet. Oh, nice one. You know, when they say reduce the price of food crops, especially for people to be able to get it, one want to ask how? Like my colleague in the studio asked already, how is that going to be possible? Farmers are in IDP. For example, Benue, that happen to be the food basket of the nation, they have over spending to like 10,000 IDPs. People are there. In Plateau State also, people are also in IDP camps. If you take it further into the north, farmers don't even go to farm again because they cannot access their farmlands. There was a time we're told that military personnel had to accompany farmers to get to their farm, you know. And then I asked, how? For how long is that going to happen? I think Nigerian government should understand that this great nation will have over 200 million people here. And only 5% or little below that happens to be the haves. I'm trying to break it down the way people will understand it now, because when we're talking about the French Revolution, we have the bourgeoisie, and then we have the serfs. Now in Nigeria, there's nothing like middlemen anymore. We don't have any middlemen again, unlike what we used to have before now during the medieval era, Renaissance time. And if this actually did not really work the way it should be, to get to a time when people will do what? They will ask for bread. And believe me, the rich are the ones that will say, if you don't have, give them cake. And then people will ask, oh, there's even cake. I was still asking for bread. And that is what is going to lead to what I wouldn't want to call, I wouldn't want to make it known actually on national television, but I think it's high time politicians actually do the needful. Look inwardly, think like there's no box. If you're talking about reduction of the price of goods in commodity in Nigeria, make them available so that people will stop running to, you know, places where we'll get it a bit high or all that. Make them available, then Nigerians will just relax back. We don't really ask for much. The only thing we're asking for is give us electricity. We pay for it. Band A, I happen to be part of the Band A consumers now. And you guys promised to give me like 22 hours per supply. I don't have that. But yet I'm not really on the street protesting, not because I cannot do it. Then I will still want to go and get diesel for the generator. And I know that one is actually still expensive. Get us all the basic amenities that we need. We're paying for all this, for crying out loud. We're not asking for much, please.
Oh, well, Nigerians are obviously, you know, going through a lot here. Well, the president has given the directive. We wait to see how that will be implemented. For me, I think it's just sound bites. It's just sound bites. I was hoping that we could have, you know, the picture of the president. That one trended yesterday at the LEC Palace with President Macron. President was looking really good, you know, away from all the Barbariga. And you know, he was on jeans and jacket. You know, he looked good. So I'm pretty sure if we have that picture, let's put that one up. I'm pretty sure that you know, the president got there and, you know, saw a few things. I'm like, okay, and then he was reminded, Baba, this food you're eating here, you know, it's kind of cheap here if you compare what you're spending here to what your people home are spending on food. I said, really? Let them bring down the prices of food immediately. That was to me. That was, you know, how that's how I feel it played out. You know, and yesterday, FEC had their meeting. Let's see how they do. Will there be you know, a market? Will FCCPC go into the market and say, okay, look, ensure you bring down your prices.
Okay,
how much are you selling this? Bring it down. How much? Bring it down.
All right.
I wonder how they intend to achieve
They will subsidize it.
Subsidize? How are they going to do it? Would they still tell
Markets all over the nation.
All over, it's possible. This
Would they tell custom to reduce the
Nigeria is an
price of
unusual place.
taxes?
Nigeria is an unusual place.
Because we know we are
Someone said that
important.
yesterday.
We know we are important, so I don't think that
Well,
would be-
anyway, sound bites as it is. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Okay.
But anyway, it's also a call to government at all levels to ensure that goods and services are placed, are made affordable for Nigerians. Yes, that's the president. To match. He was wearing my best color, blue, all the way down. He was looking good. So that's the president enjoying his working vacation, as it were. So he's working, you see. He's meeting with the president of France. That's to show that he's working over there. And then by calling the Federal Executive Council and giving them instruction means he's actually still working. So it's all work.
Yeah, he has listening ears. Listening ears.
Yes, he does have listening ears.
I'm sorry.
Oh well. Let's move away from that conversation to another. Well, I hope we'll just put out this information because of time. We'll have to go to the papers. But the aggrieved workers of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs yesterday blocked the ministry's headquarters in Abuja in protest against what they described as outright maltreatment and poor welfare by the ministry. Now, the protesters lamented that they have neither received any welfare package nor have they been trained. Now, one of the protesters also displayed a video sent to her by one of their female colleagues who said she is at the point of death after the death of her 21-year-old daughter in the hospital. In March 2025, the ministry announced that in a concerted effort to alleviate economic hardship and support vulnerable groups, it collaborated with the NEAR Foundation and distributed tons of essential food packages to notable women's groups in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, and various communities in Nasarawa State. However, the protesting workers of the ministry, most of whom are women, said they did not receive any food. It's quite unfortunate. I think relevant agencies should look into that. They did not receive any food. Meanwhile, something has been given, and a food should have been shared around. So it just goes to show that some people take what is meant for the generality of the populace and keep it to themselves. Very unfortunate. But that's the video that we have up on the screen there. Aggrieved women. You see, we are having protests springing up at different parts of the country. And it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. If the politicians and government continue to take the people for granted, I fear that there might be, a breakdown of law and order. If care is not taken, the people are really being taken for granted.
It's not taken. And
if care is not taken.
We can't be having all of this. And we have a president who is holidaying.
He's
far away Europe.
He's working. He's on a work visit.
In far away Europe. It's very telling and revealing. I'm telling you.
Oh, well. Well, let's quickly run to the papers now. Let's look at headlines that we have. From Daily Independent, the window headlines here. Blocking at Senator Natasha's return, affront to democracy. ADC. Senate won't entertain any matter in court, says Adaramoju. Ignoring Supreme Court's ruling on LG autonomy, worst injustice. Nolgate urges Tinubu to show commitment, execute judgment. And then from the Daily, the banner headline there reads, no law to punish politicians over early campaigns. INEC. Yakubu Jega seek urgent electoral reforms before 2027. One, without reforms, poll integrity could be compromised. INEC officially recognizes David Mark. David Mark led ADC leadership. Okay. FG says 2024 budget performance has reached 80%. Moves to crash food prices. UN report ranks Nigeria fourth as attacks on schools surge 44% globally. NTAA directs airlines to fly without unruly passengers. National Grid suffers collapse over tripping off Genco. Farmers warn 5% fuel tax may worsen food inflation. I think that's what the president should be addressing, as against just asking that food prices be brought down. NUPRC secures over $400 million in decommissioning liabilities. Well, those are the headlines on the cover page of Daily Independent.
And up next is the Vanguard newspaper with the banner headline to be 2027. Microzoning stirs tension in PDP. Right after that, opposition's prospects brighten as INEC recognizes David Mark-led ADC. Jonathan Konkoso deepen negotiation. And above the masthead, blackout. Businesses suffer as national grid collapses again. FG not introducing new tax. Oyedele NCAA orders airlines to blacklist unruly passengers. Netanyahu must be brought to justice, Qatari Prime Minister vows. 2024 budgets 80% implemented. That's coming from Adun. And then we have the picture of the president and that of the Emmanuel Macron of France. And also beside that, we have another picture there from Ojulari, in Milan, where he went for a summit. And beneath that, EFCC grows ex-NNPCL boss Chiari over $7.2 billion refinery fund. Senate must allow Natasha back, says ADC, ex-Cardinal AG Jacobs. Enugu wins a $100 million Model Green State Award. And from the world of sports, that's on page 40, 2026 WCQ, that's World Cup qualifier, blames NFF shell for Eagles' woes. That's coming from Kojo. And those are the stories you'll find on the cover page of the Vanguard newspaper today.
And from the Punch newspaper, FG rakes in 600 billion naira VAT from Facebook orders. Reps grill Edu Bagudu over 2024-2025 budget delays. Yobe holds mass burial as bandits kill 84. That is the sad one. Now, beside the nameplate, Tinubu orders fresh push to crash food prices. Now, the big story, 2027, police, INEC move against early campaigns. With the riders, PDP, ADC accuse APC of violating rules, call for penalties. IG vows to enforce laws. APC denies campaigning, says Tinubu. Party respect rule of law. NNPP urges caution. More stories. Now there's a picture there of our president, the picture that we just flashed on our screen here. Now, Tinubu, Macron have lunch amid France political tension. Owatero attacks, sorry, I'll check that again. Owatero attack suspects lose bail bid. Police arrest Obi of Lagos, foil installation. EFCC quizzes ex-NMPC GMD Carey over refinery contracts. That's it from the Punch newspaper.
That's how far we can go. Taking a quick peep on the cover page of the National Daily. Zuo to join Moses and Chikuma for the newspaper review, and that will be on top of the hour, 10 a.m. here on Voice of the People Television. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dissect the first topic of conversation, which is about, a 2010 Rockefeller Foundation prediction that says that Nigeria is set to collapse by 2026, and this actually reignites fear amidst the power revolution.
Good morning. It's the start of a beautiful day. Or start your day right with a healthy dose of news, fun, and inspiration. Join us on VOP this morning for the latest news, trending topics, and uplifting stories to set your day on the right vibe. From news and current events to lifestyle and entertainment, you are covered.
VOP This Morning, 8 a.m., Monday through Friday.
2564 coming up on Barney 9 right.
The 2564 Atlantic Tower.
What happens in the hush behind hangar doors? Who signs the papers that gamble with lives? Which truths were grounded before they even ever had wings? If you've ever buckled a seatbelt at 30,000 feet, if you've ever stared out of that tiny window and wondered who's really in control of the skies, it isn't just flight, it's power, it's politics, it's pressure sealed in steel.
drawing attention to its bold forecast of a revolution and the potential collapse of Nigeria's government by the year 2026. Now, according to the report titled Lockstep, it was predicted that by 2026, widespread public unrest in Nigeria would lead to the collapse of the government, driven by deep frustration over persistent cronyism and systemic corruption. Now, in response to investigative journalist Mayowa Durosimi's tweet about the ongoing revolution in Nepal, David Hundeyin posted from his verified X account, responded by asserting that Omoyele Sowore, known for his hashtag Revolution Now movement and signature Orange Beret, may be positioned as a transitional leader in the event of such upheaval. Now, Hundeyin's post has reignited debate around foreign influence in African politics and the role of activist figures in shaping Nigeria's future. Well, I know they are both, they're both authors, well, anyway, we have joining us on this conversation, Okpeyemi, who will be joining the conversation in a bit. That's Okpeyemi Benjamin Ogulami, will take you back movement from, well, he will be joining the conversation shortly. But we also have from Abuja, Mazi David Ihoma Esquire, political affairs commentator, and from Port Harcourt, Elder Lekia Christian, who is a public affairs analyst as well. President, Justice Crusader, a social justice crusader, I beg your pardon, and President, Niger Delta Coalition Against Violence. He also joins the conversation virtually. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being part of the conversation. Well, we also being joined by Honorable Tokwe Abdul Razak Balogun, Lagos State governorship candidate for the Action Alliance for 2023 elections. Anyway, well, he also joins the conversation. Well, gentlemen, good to have you join this conversation this morning. Let's take this one to Abuja, where Mazi David Ihoma is. All right, so I'm being told that Lekia Christian is the one who's in at the moment. Well, Elder Lekia Christian, good to have you join us this morning.
Always a pleasure to be on VOP.
Now, you had the monologue, uprising by 2026. Some prediction, not a Nostradamus prediction, by the way, but some prediction. And also the allegation that one is being prepped to lead some sort of transitional government in the person of Omoyele Sowore, who we all know is an activist. Now, how does this make you feel? Are you troubled by this, revelation? This is coming up again. It was first released in 2010, but it's coming up again. Do you think Nigerian government in particular should be concerned about this, seeing what is going on, what happened in Kenya, and what is happening in Nepal as well?
For any country who believes in her sovereignty and for any government who believes in continuity, it is important not to undermine informations when they come, particularly predictions within this context. However, I know that the future of any country will always depend on these people. For Nigeria, it's not about the predictions. We may act the predictions into place. We may also live a natural life. But we have not done that because we lack patriotic leaders in this country. From inception, instead of the independence that came to bring good news, it was one crisis or the other, as if it wasn't good enough to have gained the freedom we had politically as at 1st October 1960. So this prediction coming from Rockefeller Foundation and trying to link Sowore with the CIA, are two different things. Nigeria is not a country that if we are truly independent, that should depend on predictions or Rockefeller Foundation to tell us what will become. Except there is a script and there are people they are also giving responsibilities to play that. The CIA is for the US. We also have a secret agency. And I think our government in terms of intelligence should know what to do at this critical moment. The survival of Nigeria will always depend on Nigerians. But if the leaders they allow our survival to be dictated by foreign powers, then we are not independent at all. And
now, but talking about foreign powers, there's always been the complaint about foreign influence in governance, especially in Nigeria. Not too long ago, the president was said to be some sort of CIA person of interest, and then we've seen relationship between Nigeria and France. We've seen relationship between Nigeria and some other countries, and we know the relationship between those countries, especially France now, with other African countries. And some have said, look, this is as a result of some sort of influence, and these powers, these world powers, as it were, are trying to dictate what happens in Nigeria by shielding or, playing or partnering with whoever is at the helm of affairs. How can we deal with this?
Well, for anybody who have risen to the position of a president, not to understand that the future and the survival of that country depends on him and those democratic institutions. If he's in a democracy, that person is like an actor contracted and given a role to play. He will only be acting the mere script. These are always the thing, particularly when it comes to France. The French government had always been very terrible. Remember, even when Africans wanted to rise, during the nationalist era, the French government treated Africans who had voices, who were educated, through their policy of assimilation, as though they were French nationals. And this made them to forget the fact that they were still Africans in Africa. So when they give them that pseudo impression that, look, we are the same people, and the majority of Africans within Africa and under that colonial administration were suffering. They are not treating your brothers well, and they give you the impression that you are important. You have that pseudo self-impression and begin to think like them. You end up becoming a robot in the hands of the same French government. So for me, it's an issue of concern. If we are independent, we should act independently.
Okay. All right.
If we are not independent, then it's a shame that you allow yourself to be used as a tool in the hands of foreign powers at the detriment of your own people.
Okay. Elder Christian, let me stay with you. I want us to remove the Rockefeller Foundation from this. It's an independent agency. Now, I want us to talk about the situation that we see in Nigeria. And I want us to tie it with what it's called, there's a Global Fragile States Index, which is run by Fund for Peace. Now, they have like 4 sectoral indices: economic, political, social, and cross-cutting indices and all of that. And in all of those subsectors, like the rule of law, external influence, economic decline, and I think there are 12 of them. And what is it that they measure? They measure the fragility of states, and they have several categories from sustainable, highly sustainable, alert, very high alert, and all of that. And Nigeria happens to fall within the very high alert category. Now, if you watch that FSI historically over time, their predictions in terms of not saying that this will happen, but by just saying these countries are very fragile and might just unravel. Afghanistan, before Afghanistan unraveled, they said it. Somalia, they said it. Sudan, they said it. And all of that. Now, it is not that they just come out to say this country is going to unravel, but when you study those indices and all of that, these things always happen. Now, if you look at what is going on in Nigeria, in terms of insecurity, in terms of economic decline, in terms of external influence, rule of law, and everything, we seem to be posting very negative indices. If you put all of these things together, and like I said, let's take away the Rockefeller Foundation, what do you think might happen to Nigeria if we progress in this direction before 2026, 2027? What do you think will happen?
Well, for me, those indicators are very important, but as important as they may be, it boils down to a people who either understands who they are, what they want, and whether they are patriotic enough to show sincerity in terms of governance. Because why did we even think about being freedom? What did we think about political independence in the first place? Self-autonomy. Why did we think about that? Because we were not comfortable with the way the colonial masters were handling us. And all of this boils down to the resources here. And for the reason why all of this is happening is because African leaders over time had compromised with their colonial masters. Look at Britain. Britain held us together with, through the platform of the Commonwealth. They still had influence through the influence of the crown within the Commonwealth of Nations, you know. And all of this shows that they are not out of Africa. And that's why they influence our leaders and give them the impression that the only way you can survive is to be aligned to the thinking of your colonial masters.
Elder Christian, I hate to butt, please permit me to butt in at this moment. When we talk about, you know, tying our apron strings to our colonial masters and all of that, Africa, Nigeria wasn't the only continent that was colonized. As far as Australia, Australia was even a penal colony where criminals were sent to. They've been able to put their acts together. Japan was colonized. In fact, UK colonized more than 1/3 of the world space. The Asian countries, the Asian tigers, talk about Singapore, talk about Malaysia, talk about Taiwan. All those places were still colonized by who? By the same Britain. But they have put their acts together. So why do we always sit back and blame UK, Europe for our problem?
I'm not really blaming, we are saying the same thing. I'm not really blaming the UK. I'm blaming the inability of Nigerian leaders to recognize the place of freedom. If you are free, you should have an agenda of your own. For those who come into governance to play the script of whoever that is dictating for them from wherever, it is their business. And that accounts for why we are where we are. But for anybody who comes into governance with an agenda that will seek public good, the good and development of his people, that person, you know, will succeed. And if you look at even the democracy we practice today in Nigeria, how much of our laws do the politicians respect? Look at what is going on even today in this country. Is it not a shame that court orders will be disrespected? Is it not also a shame that court judgments are not being honored and respected? Is it not a shame that people, you know, freedom and faith will depend on the position and interest of whosoever that is in power? These are the same thing we are saying. Look at the young man in Burkina Faso. Even if people don't want them to be talked about in Nigeria, the man has just come up. That was a French colony, for Christ's sake, and said, enough of this. We all saw what happened to Gaddafi. Even if they said he was, no matter the impression that America created, today we knew that Libya under Gaddafi is far more better. It was far more better than what it has become today, in fragments and in pieces.
No, Elder Christian, when you took your time now to analyze all this, to bring out all these indices, and then we're looking at someone who actually, or an organization that made a projection since 2010. They say that since 2010. And it's not as if to say Nigeria as a nation actually have decided to deviate or move away a little from some of the things that made them to run now or print down this projection up until this time. That I think next year is the 2026 they're talking about. Now, are we still ruling out the fact that, you know, that we might not, in running to this, which this foundation, Lucky Fire Foundation, have actually have talked about or predicted to be the fate of Nigeria?
Well, if things continue the way they are, that predictions will definitely come to pass. But I'll tell you one thing: just opposing, just look at the operations of NGOs in Nigeria and within the civil society space. Most NGOs who come here to work, particularly in the north, what are they doing? How sincerely we have a porous security here, and people come here to do all manner of things unchecked. You know, some time ago I heard of the people of Japan even sending threat messages and warning the owner of this richest man, this man who sent reusable part to Japan. They said the thing was affecting the health of their girls, and it will stop them from even. It has the capacity and tendency of hindering pregnancy in those young girls. If these things are, if not for a country that is responsible and serious about the welfare of its citizens, that they have to look at these things and investigate it, Nigerians will open their hands to everything and let them come in and all manner of things. What is happening is a conspiracy, and because we don't have leadership that is sensitive to the needs of the people, and people in governance who does not have an agenda in terms of what we should be looking at. Every government that comes will want to break away from the agenda of the former government. We are not consistent with our policies and all of that. So why would they?
No. If you align or agree with the fact that something like that might happen, the question now will be, what will be the broader implication of such, given the fact that Nigeria have been a sovereign nation since 1960, like you pointed out, by October 1 this year, it's going to be 65 years, and yet we are still more like lagging behind.
One thing I'll tell you is that when predictions are made, even in the Bible, when prophecies are made, it depends on what you make out of such information. If as a government, if as a people, we decide to say, we don't want to break up, we want to survive, we want to survive together as an indivisible political entity, then there is need for the people to come together and act. But if we don't do that and we just wait, these things will continue to be playing out. Look at the value of the Naira in those days. I know when 1 Naira was equal to $2 in the 70s, you know, I mean, 1 Naira was equal to 2 pounds. But you cannot compare the value of the pound to the value of the Naira today. We are far, far more down into the pit than because we had no policy of our own. So this boils down to the inability of our government to have shown capacity to manage both our resources and to give direction to the Nigerian state in terms of leadership. So these leadership failures accounts for why we are where we are and why these influences are still a threat, are still looking very real.
All right,
if we believe in this country and we want to survive, we can, with a proper leadership, nobody will be thinking about succession. But look at what's happening to the Igbos, look at what's happening to Nigerians in Ghana, look at what's happening even in Benue, where people are no longer safe and feeling secure in their home states because of one evil agenda by whoever that wants to perpetrate evil. Why can't we live together? Why can't we stop all of this rubbish we are doing? These divisionist tendencies are responsible for why the cracks are there. And for if any government at the center really thinks about the continuity of this country as an indivisible political entity, then they must deal with the issue of security and deal with the issue of development and the well-being of Nigerians. And we must have that sense of belonging. Otherwise, before 2026, if it's about the people and the way they feel, everybody will want to go their separate ways.
All right, then. It's interesting that you took us down this path, Elder Christian. I don't know if you've seen the news very recently. I think yesterday there was the arrest of an Obi of Lagos, and there's been a debate on social media as to why there would be an Obi in Lagos, and then what Obi is, what it stands for. Some have been for, others have been against, saying, okay, there's also a Seriki in Lagos. Why isn't that an issue? I think, don't you think politicians have used, our fault lines against us? And as it was used during the 2023 election, as we get closer to 2027, do you foresee those fault lines widening, and the implication of such?
Well, I would say something at this point. There was this professor who taught us literary appreciation in those days, Professor C.T. Maduka. He came into the lecture hall and just sang one song. While he was singing, we were confused why he was singing that song. But I just want to take just 2 lines, then I'll get back to addressing it. Okay. He said, he came up to the coo 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 coo. He kept saying it until we joined him. He said, "Do we know what we were singing?" We said, "No." He said, "Human beings are crazy. Human beings are crazy. Where have they seen boundaries? Where have they seen boundaries?" And you all join him in singing. Yes, we will join him in singing. So the thing is that we have created artificial boundaries that are not necessary. For every people, your ethnic identity should be retained. That does not take away your right of surviving in any part of the country. We should be free to live and do business anywhere. Igbos in Lagos have a right to sustain their identity. So if there is an Obi in Lagos, the Obi is not going to superintend over the affairs of the Yorubas, who are the traditional owners of Lagos. But they have a right to associate and to identify themselves as Igbos in Lagos. And Obi is a symbol of leadership. So if the Igbos come together to say, we want to retain that, to have our own leadership within Lagos, nothing stops them. There is no law. There is a Sariki there, like you said. So why should the issue of Igbos coming together to retain their identity, that ethnic flair, that culture, become anybody's problem? So I don't see that as a real issue. The real issue is dealing with the problems of Nigeria, dealing with the issues of security, and dealing with the issues that have left these cracks on the map of this country the way it is. You can live anywhere, do business with anybody, retaining your identity. So I don't think that's part of the business of the DSS.
All right, part of the business of the DSS indeed. Now, as we wrap up this conversation, let's look at a few events that have happened in recent time. Some days back in Lagos, some residents of Oroshoki were upset that their properties were demolished, and then they barricaded the 3rd Mainland Bridge. Also, yesterday we saw some women from the Ministry of Women Affairs blocking the ministry's headquarters in Abuja in protest against what they described as maltreatment and poor welfare from that ministry. We've seen pockets of protests coming up here and there. What do you think government should do in the immediate to ensure that these things are quelled, and then it doesn't blow out of proportion, so we don't see things disintegrate?
Well, for the protest and the destruction of properties, the approach wasn't healthy. It is a bad thing that happened in Lagos, and it shows a complete breakdown of law and order. And this is where I expect the police to have stepped in, carry out an intelligence-driven investigation, and ensure that the culprits, those behind the crime, are being brought to book. On the part of the women who protested in Abuja, of course, gender inclusion is one of the core issues that everybody is talking about. So if in their treatment they feel that there are biases, it is important for the government to sit down and take a retrospective analysis of how well they have fared with these women, and ensure that justice is done. There should be inclusion. They have a right to be part of those who should benefit from a well-structured service.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Elder Lekia Christian. We've been joined by Mazi David, a barrister who joins us virtually from Abuja Station. We're wrapping up this conversation, but let's just get your thoughts in. Mazi David, let's get your thoughts on this. We're talking about, some reports from Rockefeller, who happens to be an organization affiliated to the CIA in America, talking about the possibility of a breakdown of law and order in Nigeria, and then some governments being put in place as a transitional government, and an individual, or Omoyele Sowore, being prepped up to occupy that position. But basically, we're talking about government of Nigeria ensuring that Nigerians are satisfied with governance and there is no breakdown of law and order. What can be done differently? What are your thoughts?
Well, the fact is that we cannot actually have a tangible revolution to restructure the Nigerian system, because the challenge we have as a country is our diversity. It would be very, very hard for any for us to collectively oppose or have a kind of a revolution that will shake the entire system, because there is no unity of purpose among the tribal communities in Nigeria. So it will be hard for us to achieve any form of revolution. But we can actually try to see if something can work. But I assure you that it will be hard to have a collective mindset to protest or to revolute, to ensure that we have a good system. That will not be achieved because of the tribal sentiment that bedevil Nigerian system as a whole. So if we can actually have a collective mindset, the North-South can unite together, it can be achieved. But I doubt that we can achieve such changes through revolution, because our tribal sentiment is something that has encroached, that's something that has made us to be where we are today. Because this one will say this is from my own place, this person will say this is from my own place. So we can actually not have that ample of unity that we need to have a strong revolution that can change our system for good.
In 2020, Mazi Ihoma, Nigerian youth come up to say, no, we don't want the SARS again because of the way they were handling Nigerians and all that. And that actually pulled through, though some persons will say it was being hijacked by the government, if I'm to use that word. Now, don't you think that if Nigerians can push such over the SARS, they want to disband it, don't you think that, when the economic issues now bite harder, they can also still pull out or pull something that strong or big again?
That NSAS protest was occasioned by people from the South. The North refused to participate in the process. So how can we be sure that even anybody from the South intends to protest that the North will join? So that's what I'm trying to let you know, that it will not be possible to have a full-fledged revolution because of our diversity. If we are kind of people that are being united by one language, it will be easy for us to have a kind of revolution to upset the outsiders that we have today. So if we talk about having a revolution, if the South comes out and says, let us have a form of revolution, the North might not join. The only thing that might unite us now is hunger. If the hunger bites so hard and there is some form of revolution, revolution, then people might participate on the basis of hunger. That's the only way that people can participate.
All right, Mazi, let me stay with you briefly. Now, I want us to tie what is going on, the prediction, to what went down in Nepal a few days ago. And you understand, I'm sure you are following the developments in Nepal. Essentially driven by what? Social injustice, unequal redistribution of resources. Driven by the Gen Zs, like what we had here in 2020. And I like the fact you said that hunger could only be the uniting factor, that will now be blinded, to our fault lines and all of that. Do you think that Nigeria has reached a tipping point where this kind of thing could happen? Nobody's praying for it, but when all avenues of peaceful revolution of issues like this have been closed out against the people in terms of clamp down, the free space that is shrinking and all of that, do you think that Nigeria has reached a tipping point? If you look at what happened in Nepal, is there a possibility that social injustice, as we see it here, unequal redistribution of resources, could also spike that kind of resistance? What do you think?
I didn't actually hear your question clearly. Can please?
Okay, are you conversant with what's going on in Nepal now? Mazimoma, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I say, am I conversant with what?
With what's going on in Nepal, a country in Asia.
Yes, I'm aware. I'm aware.
Now, what is driving that is the demographic is the Gen Zs. But the social injustice, according to them, which they identified, is the push. And if you look at what is going on in Nigeria, that prediction that Nigeria might unravel, in 2026, and I like the fact that you said hunger could be the only uniting factor. Now, do you think that Nigeria has reached a tipping point in terms of economic decline, widespread poverty, and all of that in Nigeria? Have we reached that space where it could happen, that Nigeria could unravel at any moment, if the government doesn't take action immediately?
We have gone to that point, and we have passed a long period of time. Why we have not really revoluted in this country is our diversity. The hardship now is very excessive that a lot of people who owns businesses have shut down their businesses, which are business on. It has come to the peak of it. The hardship has come to the peak that requires a revolution. But the willpower there is the willingness of the people to come out to protest is something that I cannot actually perform, that I cannot actually agree to at this point, because there's no unity amongst us. But I assure you that if the hunger bites much more, there is a tendency that there might be a form of revolution of what we are seeing today in Nepal.
Okay, I'm sure you're using the word revolution loosely and advisedly, because there are different types of revolution. It could be a revolution of the mind and all of that, because as a matter of fact, we don't call for violence yet. So let's get that very clear. Well, thank you very much, Mazi Ihoma. Well, I encourage you to stay with us as we get into the next topic of discussion. And up next, Labour Party governorship candidate Mo Halu suspends campaign, accuses Chukwuma Soludo of turning state into battlefield. Join us again when we come back.
That's 2564 is coming up on Barney 9, right?
So 2564 Atlantic Tower.
What happens in the hush behind hangar doors? Who signs the papers that gamble with lives? Which truths were grounded before they even ever had wings? If you've ever buckled a seatbelt at 30,000 feet, if you've ever stared out of that tiny window and wondered who's really in control of the skies, it isn't just flight, it's power, it's politics, it's pressure sealed in steel. We're peeling back the clouds from runway risks to sky-high secrets. We're diving deep where most dare not to look. Aviation Scope, every Sunday at 7 p.m. only on Voice of the People TV. We don't just report, we reveal. We don't just ask, we uncover. Because when it comes to the skies, ignorance is turbulence. Aviation Scope, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning.
Glad to have you back. It's still VOP this morning. A Labour Party governorship candidate in Anambra State, Dr. George Mogalu, has suspended his campaign for 1 week in protest against the killing of 4 people, including a pregnant woman, at Onitsha Main Market, allegedly by operatives of the government-backed Ocha Brigade. In a press statement on Wednesday, Mogalu condemned what he described as a disturbing pattern of killings across the state under Chukwuma Soludo's administration. In his words, from Udogachi to Akadi and now Ocha Brigade, Anambra has been witnessing a disturbing pattern of killings and violence. This is no longer governance. This is tragedy, end quote. Mogalu argued that Anambra has become unsafe under Soludo, where citizens are not only threatened by criminals, but also by those wearing government uniform. We have with us on this To help make sense of this, we've been joined, like we told you earlier, from Abuja by Mazi David Ihoma, who happens to be an Esquire and also a political and public affairs commentator. And we also have Elder Lekia Christian, a public affairs analyst, social justice crusader, and president of Nigeria Coalition Against Violence. And we've been joined also by Honorable Tope Abdurazak Balogun, who happens to be the Lagos State governorship candidate and the 2023 election under the AAA political party. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being part of today's conversation. If you can hear me, Mazi David Ihoma, let's start off with you this morning. What do you have to say about this particular statement made by the Labour Party gubernatorial candidate in Anambra State? You know, he pointed out that when they went for a campaign, that a particular, will I say, outfit, security outfit, being empowered by the state governor, they started shooting to the point that a pregnant woman also died. And this happened within the main market axis in Onitsha.
Well, such is unfair and is unfortunate in a democratic society like Nigeria, acclaimed. The fact is that most of the security agencies being empowered by the state, most time work for the state or their paymaster, and most time they take law into their hands by trying to castrate certain acts that might be seen that they are actually loyal to their paymaster, and such is not proper. But in circumstances whereby someone does an act, maybe that it was empowered by the state with security protocols, does an act that inflicts harm on the society or the people that want to protect, I think such individuals should be single-handedly singled out and face the wrath of the law. And we must be mindful of the fact that some of these people that act adversely against the law are not being instructed by their paymaster to do so. Most of them do so just to impress or to show solidarity to their paymaster. And I think such individuals should be single-handed out and face the wrath of the law. I think that should be the best way to go about it.
What does this really say about the state's capacity to ensure safety? You know, I'm talking about the state's capacity to ensure safety, not just during the election now, but in general. For example, in Anambra the other time, they also made it to the news how the Udogachi members went to a lounge, and there we saw a video of a young lady that was being stripped and all that. And then take it back again to Onitsha. We also had issues or stories about how some persons are using pestle on individual. They say they are anti-touts and they are there actually to make sure that they rid the area, weed it out of touts. Now, what happened? What does it say about the state capacity of ensuring security?
The capacity of the state to ensure security is porous because majority of the security outfit that the state has are local securities that are not properly trained. So there's a need for the securities to be properly trained, intimate on the fundamental right of citizen not to infringe on it. And also they should understand that there is a repercussion for infringement of the people's rights. The problem we have in Nigeria is that both the federal securities and the state securities are acting outside the law because they are not properly being checkmated and they have not been made to face the word of the law when they act outside the scope of their power. So there is a necessity to ensure that there is a penal law that fly against all persons that have violated established protocol or laws of the land. So when those laws are activated, an individual who acts outside the law are apprehended and prosecuted according to law. There will be a signal to other people who might take steps to engage in a violation or unlawful or extrajudicial killing in the society or in the state.
All right, thank you so much, Mazi, for your submission. Now let's take this to Honorable Tope Abdurazak Balogun. Here in Lagos, I think that was last week or thereabouts, there was an information about how a particular individual who actually migrated from another party to another one. Now he left Labour Party for ADC, and we know, or rather people in Lagos are aware that he wants to contest for the gubernatorial seat here in Lagos State. But we learned that security operatives manhandled him, barricaded the environment, pushed him away, and that same venue was being used by the ruling party now to carry out their campaign. Now, my question should be, what does this really have to do? What does this portend? And how does this impact also on people who are already losing interest in voting and, all the election activities?
I would say Good morning, anyway. Good morning,
Good morning.
voice
Good
of
morning.
the people. I would say this particular incident that you have mentioned is sadly and very condemnable in all sense of statement that anybody that is reasonable will say that you have to go to that length to stop people from expressing their political liberty to migrate from whatever party to another party. The problem we have in Nigeria political system is still there till date, and that is the problem of the way we transition from the military rule to civilian rule. We are not actually very civil enough. The civic education is not there enough. So everything they want to do is to just use force, like they might will just have to deal with the weaker ones. And here we have people that are bearing arms, thinking because of what they carry as weapon, they can deal ruthlessly with anybody that does not fall in line with whatever they intended doing. And as a result, they are not ready to accommodate opposition. And in any democratic setting, what makes democracy, if we are going to adopt it as a system of government, truly, what makes democracy to flourish is opposition. There must be an active opposition that will hold the ruling party at the juggernauts and make them to jugular and make them to continue to work across the clock. But now they don't want anybody to criticize them. Their own pattern of doing things is just like the traditional system where we have everybody praising the king. If the king is doing well, we praising him. If he is doing wrong, we praise him. So I think it stems from cultural background as I don't know whether as Nigeria or as Africans, but at least what I know of the traditional system is that the king is always right. Everybody must praising him at all costs. But now we are in a democratic setting. The blood of such terrorism or oppression is still ruling in the veins. Will run in the veins of the people that are leading us. I don't see any justification for you to try to stop people from expressing their. See, at the end of the day, it does not really count. If voters are going to vote against you, they will still vote against you. If they are going to vote for you, they are going to vote, no matter how much level you try to oppress them. If you look at the last election in Lagos, the presidential election especially, the ruling party lost Lagos State. The ruling party lost Abuja. The ruling party lost even it lost Kano. And these are places where we have majority of registered voters. Despite all the shenanigans they try to put. So I think it is uncalled for. What they should do rather is to continue to give good governance. Where oppositions will find it difficult to come on board and contest against them. But all these ones they are doing is scoring them low the more, is putting them in serious trouble the more. What happens in Anambra that was just related to us is something that is appalling. Those people that were killed were just innocent bystanders. Where were they killed? It doesn't really count on the day of election. It doesn't really mean people are not going to still go and vote for whomsoever they are going to vote for. We should stop oppressing each other. Good governance is the key to winning any election. Instead of going through this, I commiserate with my brother Gbadebo for experiencing such an awkward situation. And those people that were injured, I hope they are getting better as of today.
Thank you so much, Honorable Abdulrazak. Thank you for your submission. Elder Lekia Christian, let's get into this conversation. You know, as a president, you know, talking about the coalition against violence in Anambra State, we learned that there was a violence that happened there during the week, and to the point that a pregnant woman died. Now, my question will now center on the fact that we're having issue of voter apathy. And then this also centers the fact that we have a complex electoral violence happening during the election. And some persons will say they are not interested in coming out to cast their vote. Now, with this particular happening, this is just a campaign happening for the gubernatorial election that's to take place in November, and people are already dying. What do you think this actually will portend for the outcome of the people that will come out to cast the vote for that gubernatorial election?
It portends danger and a great threat to the survival of democracy in that state. If you look at what has been going on, Anambra is becoming an unhealthy reference decimal when it comes to public safety. And for this to have happened at this critical point, it tells you that something is fundamentally wrong in that state, in the psychic of governance. For a governor to be considered as the chief security of the state does not mean that he has sufficient security knowledge or experience. There are security institutions like the police, like the DSS, like the army, the armed forces, everybody. There's always a state security council. So these people are always there to advise the governor on what to do. And this should guide the governor in terms of discharging his or her responsibility to the state. We knew of what happened, like someone mentioned a couple of moments ago, about a copper being stripped by a state-created security outfit. And now, again, you are seeing a situation where a pregnant woman and a couple of people are being injured. One lost her life. It's pathetic. Until we collectively decide not to celebrate symbols of violence in any form, including in our politics, these things will always want to subsist. So I think there's something fundamentally wrong in Anambra. And if it's coming from the governor, then the people should rise to say, we don't want to turn Anambra into a theater of war. It's unhealthy, it is unexpected, it is unhealthy and should be rejected by all right-thinking persons. Democracy is a people-centered experience. It should be people's interest-driven. And one of the key responsibility of any responsible government is to ensure safety of lives and property. Where that government fails, where any government fails, they have failed. So no matter what he has on his scorecard, as long as people keep dying, as long as insecurity keeps festering in that state and violence keep growing, it's a wrong experience.
Okay,
and
thank you very much.
Elder
Christian, let me just stay with you for a moment before we move on to another guest. Now, we seem to witness a spate of electoral violence. Now, mind you, the Anambra governorship election is coming up in November 8th, so, and it's like 2 months away from now. And if you leave Anambra, the other time in Kaduna, we saw Rufai, the meeting he held. He had a meeting, and the meeting was dispersed by unknown talks. And in Lagos State, we have made reference to what happened to the Labour Party Goba candidate in 2023, who has now joined the ADC, and they couldn't let him hold his rally. Now, in all of this, Nigerians are saying the ruling party is behind the whole of this electoral violence. Recall that in Anambra, during the by-elections, there was an altercation, there was a spat between the APC Goba candidate, Okachukwu, and the sitting Deputy Governor Ibezim and all of that. And people are fingering the ruling party, the ruling APC. And in all of these, campaigns have started going on. Campaigns have started even before INEC formally lit the ban on campaign and all of that. And we don't hear the president. We don't hear the National Public Secretary of the party, APC. We don't even hear the chairman of the party say, look, no, not yet time. And everybody has jumped into the fray. What does that tell you about the power of incumbency and how political parties use it, to oppress others during elections? Do you see the APC doing all of this? Or is it that, look, everybody is guilty as charged? And what should be, the response of the people in government in trying to put all of these things in check?
Thank you very much. If you look at the scenario you just played, that you played out, you understand and appreciate one thing, that when you have something to offer people will see what you're offering. But when you have scored less, you struggle. And part of the strategy may be to create a crisis that will make it impossible for people to freely come out. It's unfortunate that our votes don't count. But we are praying and working seriously to ensure that votes count, because that is the only thing that will erase this unhealthy tradition that people keep strengthening. This tradition that is being driven by a negative application of intelligence and bringing so much pain on the system. It's so painful. And I think in all of this, INEC has also failed on their part. Because if given all the responsibility to say, this is what you have to do, there are codes. Unfortunately, the law does not enforce itself. The law is never an enforcer of itself. Otherwise, if the appropriate sanctions are being placed on those who default, and on the part of the political parties, things cannot be happening along a particular trend or in a particular manner and fashion. And you are not speaking to the people, and you want people to excuse you of being responsible. This is not the best way to go. It's painful. Electoral violence will not help anybody. Like my brother said, if you want to gain public confidence, deliver the dividends of democracy to the people. Good governance is the key. If you fail to provide good governance, the people will turn away from you. And any attempt to, coerce them or throw the system into some sort of confusion in order for you to manipulate it for your own interest is unhealthy. You may succeed by getting yourself into office, but then the scorecard will be there and people will remember you for all that you are doing, like what's going on in Anambra State today. No matter how brilliant Soludo think he is, if this continue, it will definitely spell doom when it comes to his public image, because they will be remembered for all the evil that have been happening under his watch.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate your presence. Now, let's go over to Abuja, where we still have Mazi David Ihwoma. Mazi David, I would like for us to talk about the role. We are going back to this issue of the role of citizens, in holding government to account. Now, we have a situation where there is political violence, apparently. It's not in dispute. There's political violence. And especially if you go to Anambra now, everything, that is gone violent is directly tied to the elections. People are saying, look, the governor is behind all of this. And when rallies are dispersed, people say, look, it is the ruling government that is behind all of this. Now, what should be the role of the people at a point when the people get to a situation where the free space, the space for association, the space of free speech is shrinking gradually day by day? What do you think? How will citizens hold their leadership to account? What should be the role of citizens in building this democracy, especially when there's a pushback, or especially when there is some kind of push by the government to clamp down on people? What should the people do? How should they react to all of this?
People will have to resist every form of oppression that meant to instigate and emasculate their humanity to calamity. And the problem we have, as I said, is the inadequacies of our electoral system to be able to allow people to exercise their franchise willingly and elect their leaders, where the people have not been given the opportunity to be able to effectively and freely elect their leaders. Oppression and emasculation can never be diverse from such society. So it borders on the electoral reform and the ability to have a good atmosphere for people to have their votes cast and elect the credible leaders of their choice. The only way people can actually take control and take charge of their own affair is when they are given a full opportunity and free will to elect those who are they feel that can deliver the dividends of democracy to them. So where the system reform has not been made available, then the only way people can actually ventilate their grievances is through protest, if they are being given opportunity to exercise such rights. I think it's protest that can actually be a very good factor that will send a good signal to the government to readjust their governance and their way that since the revolution cannot be actually be feasible to get that. So I think electoral reform and the ability to put aside their franchise and elect their leaders will be the only last resort.
All
My
right
own
then.
opinion.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Mazi Ihoma. Well, let's move on to another conversation now. Obieze Kwesili accuses Senator Akpabio and the Senate of killing democracy, demands Senator Natasha's immediate recall. Gentlemen, let's talk about this when we come back. We'd like for you to stay with us as we get into this next conversation.
Good morning. It's the start of a beautiful day. Or start your day right with a healthy dose of news.